Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Horse Advocate podcast. This is Doc T. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to 2025. This is my first podcast of this year, and I took some time off because I did a lot of things. So I'll just make a quick announcement. I've restructured the Horses Advocate website. So if you haven't been there in a while, I encourage you to go there. Thehorseadvocate.com is a resource that you can use to find everything that I've written or podcasted about or done anything with horses to help educate horse owners to help their horses thrive in a human world. The key thing is the search. If you just go to the website, you look for the spyglass in the upper right-hand corner and click on that, type in your keyword or keywords, hit enter, and everything I've written is going to be in there, including the units in the courses. If you have not become a member, you might want to become a member because the courses really dig down deep into a lot of this information. So I apologize that I'm starting this year off with a promo to become a member of the Horse Advocate, but it really, really, really will help in so many ways. And the courses help structure this idea of nutrition because nutrition seems to be so undiscussed or discussed in a mind-blowing way that most people just get frustrated. I'll give you an example. This just happened yesterday. I went to see a new client. She had rescued an off-the-track thoroughbred, and the hair coat was bad. The hooves had cracks. The walls were splayed out. Certainly underweight. There's very little muscle in the top line. Everything about this horse was just screaming for help. And she had hired me thinking that if she got the horse's teeth done, this would fix everything. And I told her it wouldn't. The horse needs the teeth done. It'll be more comfortable. Yes, it'll take that little bit of stress away, but it's not going to help the horse because the horse is eating everything you're giving it. Somehow it's getting it down, but what you're feeding the horse isn't helping. And she was so receptive to listening and learning what I had to say. She's a diabetic herself, so she could really relate to a lot of these things about insulin, et cetera. And I helped her walk through all the different things that this horse in 6 months is going to look completely different. And it's going to go 12 months from now into winter, a much healthier horse, a happier horse. I know because I've seen so many horses that have done this, that it's so simple. You have to eliminate the certain foods and add the high quality protein, and presto, you've got a new horse. It's that simple. But today's podcast, I wanted to go over the foraging behavior. What is the foraging behavior? Well, foraging is what drives any animal to look for food and to consume it. I know that everyone listening to this has had foraging behavior where it's 11 o'clock, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, you get up out of bed, you're having trouble sleeping, and you go to the kitchen, you grab something to eat because you have this foraging behavior that says, I need to eat something. And we know that we don't want to eat it. We know that we're on a diet. It's going to affect the amount of calories. We're going to add body fat. We're going to feel sluggish the next day. All the ramifications of eating at midnight is going to affect us, and it affects our horses too. But what drives us to that? That's the key. A lot of people say it's willpower. It has nothing to do with willpower. Absolutely not. The foraging behavior is being driven by factors that are inside of us that move our horses, our dogs, ourselves into looking for food. We layer on top of that as social creatures, the idea of going out to be with our friends. So that's part of the foraging behavior, just this association, getting around people. But if you take that away and you just look at what drives us to eat, it is a driven force that's in our brain. So let's go over this. Foraging behavior is our brain telling us that we need to move our muscles, and either our horses migrate because there's no food where we are now. It's winter and we got to move on, find better pastures, break down a fence, fight horses that are in the pasture with us, or we're in a stall and there's a wall between this horse and that horse. And even though they can't get each other, and you look and you say, there's no way that these two horses can come into contact with each other. And yet the horse is attacking the wall with its teeth, banging its head off the wall, saying, get away from my food. This is my food. I'm defending it. That kind of behavior is irrational and is being driven by stuff that's going on in the brain. Here's another example. You're leading your horse out to a paddock, or you're riding your horse out on a trail and the head just dives for the ground or for the leaves on the branch and rips the reins out of your hands or your lead rope. You're being dragged because the horse is so hungry. What is driving that behavior? And there are several things that are doing that. So let's go over them. And these two are actually separate, but they are both effective. The first is called the protein leverage hypothesis. And the protein leverage hypothesis is something they've discovered in humans and other lab animals, which basically says that we will continue to eat until our daily requirement for amino acids are met. The importance of protein cannot be overemphasized here. A protein-centric diet is so essential to life and remaining healthy and having a health span. You can't have a good immune system or a nervous system. You can't have a good connective tissue system, a locomotion system, a hoof system, integument, hair. You can't have any of it unless you have good, high quality protein in the diet in sufficient quantities. And we as horse owners tend to forget this. And if we switch our feeding program around to saying, okay, we're going to start feeding protein first and then filling in everything else with other things such as structural, non-structural carbohydrates, which is basically forages and whether it's pasture or hay. And that is a secret to making your horse happy. But we're going about foraging behavior, and your horse is not going to feel satiated. Satiation is the big word that means, hey, I'm not hungry, I met my needs for the day, I don't need to eat anymore. And the biggest trigger is to eat enough amino acids. And if your horse is limited behind a fence, where he only has access to one or two types of grasses in that pasture, if any, it could be a dirt lot, and you're feeding one or two types of hay. It could be just a grass hay or grass alfalfa, timothy mix, a legume mix. All of these foods are missing the essential amino acids that drives satiation in the brain. So the horse is going to continue to look for food. And we see this in abnormal behavior, such as chewing wood, licking dirt, looking for other sources of food that are not available. They're basically starving for certain nutrients. And that nutrient, by far and away, is amino acids. We tend to focus on vitamins and minerals, and we think that's the biggest thing. But amino acids help bring in the minerals by chelating them. The amino acids help make the vitamins that are made by the gut bacteria using enzymes, and all enzymes are proteins. So you must have the protein level adequate enough for the horse to be able to make the things it needs to stay alive. So a horse will continue to look for food based on that. I've seen horses that get off grain, get off the inflammatory ingredients, and are fed adequate amounts of protein. And these horses lay down in the field with hay around them because they've eaten enough. They're satiated. They start to limit their weight. They don't overeat. They don't overconsume. They don't become fat and get crusty necks. Satiation is so important. And the first step to doing that is making sure your horses have enough amino acids. The second thing is the addictive centers in the brain that are triggered by a certain sugar, specifically fructose. Fructose is a type of sugar that is similar but different than glucose. If you haven't taken my basic or my advanced nutrition course, that's where you need to go to understand what fructose is. Fructose is also made by the horse by converting glucose into fructose. And this has been found in lab animals and in humans. And fructose doesn't go to the muscles to give the fuel needed to move. Fructose goes to the liver and goes to the brain. And its main purpose is to prepare the animal for winter. And one of the key things it does is it increases body fat. It also drives foraging behavior. It drives the aggressiveness that you see when the horse is attacking the other horse in the other stall, even though they can't see them. It increases risky behavior. So the horse knows it's got a job to do, yet it's going to risk breaking that connection and going for that hay or that twig on the ground or the grass. It'll rip the reins out of your hands trying to get that. It'll try to bolt away from you to get its head down and start eating grass, because fructose is a very addictive substance in all of us. The foraging behaviors include impulsiveness, exploration, fast decision making, risk taking, and novelty seeking. It basically drives a horse to leave its known environment and move to another place that he doesn't know if he's going to be safe or not, but he's taking the risk because it feels warmer and there could be some grass over there. There could be also a predator. They don't know, but they're willing to move. That's what migration's all about. When a horse is behind a fence, that migration urge that's built into its DNA is negated. It cannot migrate. It can only go to the end of the fence and get stopped. And if the migration urge, this foraging behavior, is strong enough, the horse will bend the fence and break the fence and leave looking for food. It'll take the risk of breaking the fence. It'll sometimes do this without a lot of thought, that fast thinking, and it's going to do whatever it takes. They found that in humans, some people have a hyperactive foraging response that's similar to behaviors such as ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and bipolar, impulsive, and aggressive behaviors. I don't know if you guys get much chance to drive out on the interstate, but there are impulsive and aggressive behaviors I see all the time in drivers. And I will bet you if we were able to take these people out and analyze them, they probably have high fructose levels in their bodies, which are reflected by high uric acid, because fructose is digested by the cells to create uric acid. And it's the uric acid that drives these behaviors. More fructose you eat, or the more fructose that's made from glucose that's in the horse, the more these behaviors are going to occur. In addition, fructose has these spots in the brain that it loves to go to, one of which is the hypothalamus. And if you know anything about Cushing's disease, the hypothalamus is having trouble communicating with the pituitary, and they're calling it pituitary dysfunction. But as far as I'm concerned, the transmission of thought from the hypothalamus to the pituitary is damaged somehow. It's a neurodegenerative disease, they're now calling it, thank goodness, which is leading to this Cushing's disease or PPID. This could be one of the reasons, because fructose is accumulating. And they're seeing in human patients a 3 to 6-fold increase of fructose in the brain in people with cognitive decline. So this is a short podcast because I want to start breaking these podcasts down into bite-sized chunks. I don't want you to be overwhelmed with information. I just want to take one concept, and that's called foraging behavior. And you and I have seen horses all over that are aggressive, that are assertive, they are risk takers, and they're doing these things that you don't understand. And our impulse for these horses is to feed them more of the foods that are creating more problems. A lot of people who take the no grain challenge, who are willing to take their horses off of sugar, such as grains, inflammatory ingredients such as grain byproducts, and copious amounts of hay given 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and reducing that to only feed hay during daylight hours. Avoid feeding hay at night. Horses are diurnal animals like you and I who sleep at night. And when you sleep, you shouldn't be eating. So you shouldn't have a hay bag set up there that they can nibble through throughout the night. You're actually encouraging this behavior. So give the horse a chance for downtime, so their factory that's moving all this food through there has a time to stop and what I call clean up the mess, which are the free radicals are in there. They're not going to get gastric ulcers or any ulcers if they don't eat at night. If they don't eat during the day, that's different. That can lead to ulcers, but horses that are fasted overnight, you give your last hay at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and don't feed them anything till the next morning. if they are being fed correctly and their fructose is low, their uric acid is low, they're not being driven with forage behavior, they've got abundant amino acids, so they have enough proteins or amino acids consumed during the day, these horses will actually be very quiet during the night. And when you go out in the morning, they will nicker for you. They'll still say, I love you, but they're not tearing the place down, bang, 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 with their hooves on the door. They're going to say, okay, it's feeding time. I'm ready to eat. I am now hungry. And we feed them the soybean meal, or we feed them their hay, or we turn the horse out on the paddock. They walk quietly out to the paddock, they turn around, and then they go right off and start eating. They're not monsters. We are creating these monsters in our horses by feeding them improperly. We're feeding them excess sugar in the form of grain. We're feeding them excess sugar in the form of hay 24/7. We're feeding the sugars that are converting glucose over into fructose. The fructose is driving this foraging behavior. We're not satiating them because we're not giving them all their amino acids. And the horse is, instead of being a willing and cooperative partner, he's turned into a monster. And we can stop it easily. Take the 2-week no grain challenge, stop feeding inflammatory foods, give the horse a chance to calm down, feed them correctly, and start adding a high quality protein. And in 2 weeks, you've got a brand new horse in most cases, in almost every case. Anyway, this is Doc T. I've kept it really short. I hope this makes a difference. And I look forward to seeing you for next podcast. Thanks. And subscribe at YouTube. Please do that and tell other people about this and get this message out. Thanks very much. Bye. Hey everyone, Doc T here. Thank you for listening to my content. Would you do me a huge favor? Would you please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up, and give a star review? However it's presented to you, I want you to do that. There's 2 reasons. The first, of course, is to improve this product. This way I know what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve upon, what topics you want me to cover. But more importantly, it's also going to help others find me. And by doing that, you are now engaged in this mission of helping horses thrive in a human world. By you helping, we can reach others. And that I would be so grateful for. And remember, go to thehorsesadvocate.com for updates on this information. Thehorsesadvocate.com. And again, thank you so much for being here. Doc T out.